Hey, what's up guys, I'm your host Niru and I've always had three things on me. The first being my glasses, then a necklace and a watch. And I've worn a watch all day, every day for a lot longer than I've had a necklace and even longer than I've been wearing glasses. So when I got an Apple Watch, I knew that I would be using it and I would be using it quite a lot. So as you could have guessed by now, this video is a full comprehensive review on the Apple Watch Series 4. So now the Series 4 Apple Watch is the first real redesign since the first Apple Watch that was announced back in 2016. They've changed the standard sizes, with the smaller 38mm becoming a larger 40mm and the 42mm becoming the 44mm. The Apple Watch that I have is a 44mm GPS version. Now I'll get to why I didn't buy the cellular version a bit later in this video. So now the first concern that you have when you hear that the watch has gotten thicker is it too big? Is it too bulky to wear on the wrist? But I have to say, since the Apple Watch has also gotten thinner than the previous Series 3, it actually feels a lot better to wear on the wrist and is a lot more comfortable even though it's gotten bigger diagonally. Although I must say that the watch that I was using before this Apple Watch was incredibly thin, so when I did start using the Apple Watch, I did have to be careful not to accidentally scrape or scratch against any surfaces, but I got used to that in a couple of days. But it's just something that you have to keep in mind, that the watch is thicker than some others. So when wearing it, just be careful not to scrape or bump against any surfaces. Now I must say, moving from a standard watch to an Apple Watch was actually a bigger change than I initially expected. Now I was aware that I would be getting notifications, calls, messages, and all of that stuff onto my watch, but only once I started wearing it did I really realize how many notifications and messages I really get in a day. But I must say that the reacting and replying to notifications and messages on the Apple Watch was a lot better than I actually thought the experience would be. And this is especially true for the tracing out of letters in order to send messages. Initially, I didn't expect it to be as smooth and as comprehensive as it is. And in fact, even with some messy handwriting, it's able to easily identify what letter I'm exactly typing. But one thing to keep in mind is that once you start tracing out every single letter of every word in a message, replying can actually take a longer time than when it's on your phone. So keep the messages short. Trying to send a full paragraph on your Apple Watch would just take ages. And another note on the detection of writing is that even when the screen is wet, the Apple Watch is able to identify what letter I'm typing pretty accurately. But however, writing in a combination of numbers, letters, and symbols is often quite difficult, especially with numbers like 6 and 7, which are accidentally identified as G and T sometimes. Now, if you're writing with symbols and you're trying to get an asterisk, good luck. And now the reason why replying to messages and notifications on your Apple Watch is so appealing is because of the new larger display. And now the display is not only larger because of the bigger shell size, but it's also because the display extends closer to the edges of the smartwatch. Now the display is also curved at the corners in order to match the shape of the Apple Watch face. And I've always been a very big fan of curved corners, especially when the curve is very seamless and smooth, just like it is on the Apple Watch. But now, although the screen is bigger and goes closer towards the edges of the watch, it is still quite a thick bezel around the display. So in the future, Apple could potentially increase the screen size without having to actually change the entire body of the watch. And now the Series 4, like the Series 3, has an option for cellular connectivity directly on your smartwatch. Now the watch that I own doesn't have cellular connectivity, and I chose not to go with it for a few reasons. So before we go into the reasons, the only difference between a cellular Apple Watch and a GPS Apple Watch is that the cellular one actually has a red band around the digital crown, whereas the GPS version just has a black band, apart from, of course, the actual cellular connectivity part. Anyway, here's the reasons why I chose not to get the cellular version and why I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting the cellular version. Firstly, every time I leave the house, there is a 95% chance that I have my phone with me. And if I don't have it, it probably means that I'm not out of the house for a very long time. So that means that in most cases, I'll have my phone with me if I want to take calls from my Apple Watch. Point number 2. What regular situations will arise in your day-to-day activities that require your phone not to be with you and that there's a high likelihood of you receiving phone calls? And now the most obvious answers is if you're going to the gym or if you're going out for a run. And now that is an extremely fair point. If a person spends 2 to 3 hours a day at the gym, 4 to 5 days a week, then that's a lot of time that they spend without their phone. But to those people, I ask you, how many times have you come back from the gym and noticed that you've missed the most important call in your entire life? Now, I have to say, if you are spending a lot of time away from your phone, investing in a cellular Apple Watch may be a good option for you. But that brings me to my third point, battery life. When you're using cellular connectivity, your Apple Watch's battery life will only last about 4 to 5 hours from a 100% charge. So if you do go to the gym at the end of your day, the likelihood of your watch lasting through your entire workout is unlikely. And that brings me to my fourth point, and that is cost. Upgrading from a GPS to a cellular Apple Watch costs $200 in itself. And if you want your mobile carrier to support your Apple Watch to receive calls and data, then you have to pay an extra $10 a month, every month. Now, on the same page as cellular connectivity, calling and receiving calls on the Apple Watch has actually been surprisingly good. Now, in the new redesign of the Apple Watch, it has the speakers and the microphone on opposite sides of the watch, which has a few technical advantages in that it allows lower echo and also for the speakers to be louder than they were. In fact, I was very impressed with the speakers in that when I was receiving or giving calls, I didn't have to bring the watch all the way up to my ear and strain to listen to what the other person was saying. In fact, even the performance of the microphone was exceptional in that when I was receiving calls, I didn't have to bring the microphone all the way up to my mouth in order to speak. In fact, I was just holding it at normal wrist level. In fact, the other person was able to hear me without any issues and didn't even suspect that I was using my Apple Watch. Now I can describe this all that I want, but let's go do a demo. So now for this demo, I'm going to make this a bit wider so that you should be able to see a bit more of the frame. And now let's just go ahead and make the call and hope that he picks up. Hello?
Hi.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, what are you up to?
Doing my homework.
What homework?
For uni.
You didn't even start.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of pre-reading to do.
What a nerd, bro. What a nerd.
Totally.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
Me? I'm up to nothing.
Yeah?
Yeah? How well can you hear me?
Pretty well.
Pretty well?
Why?
Nah, just asking, that's why.
So whose phone are you using now?
What makes you think I'm using a phone?
You know, what? What do you mean?
Nothing. You'll see. You'll find out later.
Okay.
Alright, see ya.
Later.
Bye. Now, what you just heard was the Apple Watch speaker, and what I was using was my Apple Watch. So if it wasn't already obvious, I'm actually very impressed with the Apple Watch Series 4. And now, before I give it too much praise and this just becomes a fanboy video, I do have to say that the watch is not perfect. Now, what I mean by that is that I've had a few hiccups in my experience with the Apple Watch, in that if the watch is disconnected from my phone for long enough, it loses sync. Now, I still receive messages, I can take calls, I can get notifications, all of that still works. It's just that contacts and call history are not able to be viewed from my Apple Watch. It just comes up as numbers instead of actually showing the name of the contact. So now because of that, I have to go into my Apple Watch app from my iPhone and then reset sync data. Now, when pressing the button, it just blinks and it really shows no progress about whether it's syncing, it's finished syncing, or how long it's going to take to finish syncing. So it's just like you just leave it and hopefully after some time it will sync. Now, this has happened and the sync worked in about 2 minutes. So now it's not really a very big problem, but it is something that I did encounter, so I felt the need to share it. Now, Apple places a lot of stress in terms of health and fitness when marketing their Apple Watch. Now, even with its wide array of sensors, its detection of standing, exercise, and activity are kind of iffy, in that sometimes when I'm standing up, it tells me to stand up. And now your exercise and activity ring continue to close even if you don't actually log any exercise or activity within your workout app. So now with the exercise ring and the activity ring, I feel like they should tell us what exactly counts towards exercise and activity and whether the two are mutually exclusive or not. Because there have been times when I've closed my exercise ring 2 or maybe even 3 times, but my activity ring is still only at 3/4 or 90%. But now I do have to say, with such a wide array of sensors like the heart rate sensor, accelerometer, gyroscope, ambient light sensor, and so on, the battery life on the Apple Watch is actually quite exceptional. I have never had my Apple Watch die out on me in the middle of a day, and I only charge it once every 2 days. And by the end of the second day, the lowest I've ever seen the battery go was 13%, but on most days it's between 19 and 24%. So now with that being said, is the Apple Watch really worth the $650 to $700 that it does cost? And to that, I have to say yes. Now, I use my Apple Watch a lot other than just messaging and replying to notifications, in that I can use it to check train times, I can use it to check maps, start workouts. So there is actually a lot more that a smartwatch can offer than any other normal analog or digital watch can. And another area where you get your Apple Watch's money worth is its infinite customizability. Now, yes, you can change the watch bands, but those are quite expensive, ranging from $50 to $70 or even above those. But what you can change for free is your watch faces. So now you decide what you want and don't want your watch to display. Now with the infographics watch face, you can have up to 8 complications on the display. And what I have is I have my messages, temperature, battery life, the calendar, then I have of course the time, a phone, the activity rings, and I have the calendar again to display the date. So now you can change those, and there are heaps of options about what you want to put and don't want to put on your display. And now apart from that, the new watch faces are the fire, the water, and the vapor. Now I don't really use them that much. I like something that's a bit more static and doesn't change. But if you're into something like that, then you have the options to go with that. Now you can also have plain colors, etc, etc. So if you ask me, you get your money's worth when you buy an Apple Watch. But if you upgrade to cellular, it's debatable whether or not it's worth it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like. If you don't want to miss out any future content, subscribe to the channel. And as always, have a great life.